Welcome back, everyone, to our playthrough of the career mode here in NASCAR Heat 2. So it is time for the excitement to finally pay off. We're at the playoffs. The regular season is now over. Let's take a quick look at the standings. You can see we ended the regular season with 5 wins, which tells me that our science experiment went pretty well. And our science experiment that I'm referring to, if you're just joining us, is our attempt to handicap ourselves and essentially slow ourselves down so that we're not dominating a lot of races, because with the AI in this game, it's pretty easy to, at a lot of tracks, especially the bigger tracks, to simply just dominate and run away with the races. And we didn't want that. That's not fun. It's not fun for me to race when I'm out front by 10 seconds after 10 laps. And it's not any fun, I can't imagine, for you guys to watch either. So we put some things in place to try to slow ourselves down. And one of those things was we chose a 4-star truck team instead of a 5-star. Then we've also got some other setup things that I've been trying to work through as the season goes on so that we're fast, but not overly fast. And it gives us a chance to really get in there and race hard with these guys for a chance at top 5s and top 10s. That's ultimately the goal. I'm not interested in winning every race. As odd as that sounds for a race car driver to say they don't want to win every race, you have to get into the behind the scenes, the why don't you want to win every race. So that's what we're trying this little science experiment, and we're going to keep messing around with it as time goes on. The developers keep releasing updates. Who knows? Maybe some of those updates are going to make the AI much faster and make it to the point where we need all the speed we can get just to be competitive. That would be awesome if they do that. So we'll have to see how things go moving forward. But so far, so good on our little science experiment. You can see there, in addition to our 5 wins, there's a couple of other things to point out. First thing is there are 2 other drivers that had multiple wins, John Hunter and Grant Enfinger. But then if you'll notice, the playoffs are starting in round 1 with 8 drivers, and you notice there are 8 drivers with wins. So if you wanted to get into the playoffs in the Truck Series this year, you had to have a victory. You were not going to be able to point your way in, and that becomes particularly important because if you'll notice who's number 9 on this list, Matt Crafton, somebody that I would have never, ever expected to be out of the playoffs, particularly not even making the playoffs. It's one thing to think about getting eliminated as the playoffs run their course, because you can have bad weeks and bad luck that can take you out. But to think that Matt Crafton didn't even make the playoffs is hard to believe, and just goes to show you how important winning has been this season. So let's take a quick look at the playoff grid, and we can see that our 5 wins and leading the regular season standings has resulted in a 31-point cushion for us to start off. What does that mean? Well, we have 31 points that we could maximally lose and be tied for 6th position. You can see the green line that separates 7th and 8th from the rest of the grid, and that is because after the first 3 races, which would equal the first round of the playoffs, 7th and 8th positions will be eliminated, but already you can tell we're starting off 7th and 8th are only 3 and 4 points respectively out of the top 6. So it's going to be very tight getting started, and it's going to be interesting to see how this thing flows. What I expect to see is that the 8 guys you see on the screen right now are the 8 guys I would expect to be in the top 10 for every race and fighting for the victories. We hope to be among them, and we hope to be fighting for victories and top 5s and so on, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Let's go ahead and click on next race. I mentioned in previous video, I don't believe if it was the last video or one before that, but I do think that we're most likely done with hot seat offers for the remainder of this season. We could get another one, and I can't really remember back. Memory's not good enough to remember back to our intro season in the trucks, and I can't remember if we got another hot seat offer once the trucks were in the playoff stretch. But regardless, we're probably going to be focusing for the remainder of the year on just the trucks. And that's going to give us an opportunity to do exactly what we need to do to try to chase down that championship and see how close we can indeed get to that. So we're off to New Hampshire. I can't wait for that. New Hampshire is a lot of fun. It's basically a short track with a little bit longer straightaways. Think of it as Martinsville with a little bit longer straightaway, and you have about got it. That's essentially what it boils down to at New Hampshire. So should be a lot of fun. Let's head to the track. All right, folks, here we go. So we are starting off on the pole, and let's see how hard we can get in here. Truck's going to be loose at the very beginning. We just got to hold them off here for as long as we can. You can see they're coming back on me on the outside. All right, there we go. We'll let it drift up the track a little bit here and try to get some sort of a rhythm. You can see that bottom does not have very much, if any, actual banking down there. And we're going to stick pretty close to that for the most part, but we'll let the truck roam around a little bit. I was working on the actual setup for this track to release on the channel, and I really like it. Of course, it handles a little bit different here in career mode because we don't have a 4-star truck. Remember, we're in a four-star team instead of a 5-star. So we're going to be down on power just a little bit, which is going to make the truck handle differently than it would if we had all the power. On the other hand, we do have that momentum, and I'm not sure exactly how much that makes up for the missing power, but I can tell you that the truck is handling differently than it was when I was using the setup that I worked on in single player. Trying out the high side there, not quite as good as I wanted it to be up there. But you can see we are moving away from all of our competitors. I'm not even sure where those guys are back there. I can't even see them most of the time in my mirror. So if I look, I think they're just now coming off the corner. I'm trying to look in my mirror as much as I'm looking out the windshield. I am definitely not running blisteringly fast laps, that's for sure. I actually qualified at something like a 31.5. I think it was a 31.52, somewhere in that neighborhood. That put me on the pole by, it was like a half a tenth or something, so not much. But as we know from our experience in the game, the AI tend to qualify way faster than they're going to run in race pace, way faster. Whereas for me, I generally qualify at about my race pace. I don't make any adjustments to even try to speed the car up, really. I just go with what I would run normally in the race, and, you know, it is what it is. All right, running some okay laps. The truck feels good. Similar to what it felt like, again, in the single player when I was working on the setup to be released. Not sure when it'll be released on the channel. Depending on how the timing for all this stuff works out, I don't know exactly when this video will be posted in relation to when the setup video will be reposted. So it actually could be that we end up with the setup video posted before you see this career mode video. So we'll have to see how all that timing works out. Let's go ahead and pull up A couple of times. Pretty easy on the brakes going into the corner. Not near as much brake as you would think you would need to use. Of course, you can always drive it in deeper if you want and use more brake. But for me, I prefer to let the car turn more naturally. So I'm braking somewhere around the number 1 marker. Sometimes I drive it in just a little bit deeper. I can get away with driving it in deeper in turn 1 than I can turn 3. Like right here, you can see I drove it in quite a bit past the number 1 marker, and the truck is perfectly fine. Definitely no problem there. All right, so we have almost 8 seconds. Right at 8 seconds. I can tell you that and this is something I'm going to talk about in the setup video whenever I release it on the channel as well. So again, if that video ended up coming out before this one, then you've already heard some of this. But how the truck or car handles for you on this track is a lot more relevant to how you drive it than it is the setup. Essentially, what you want to do, just like you would always, is you want to make the setup fit your driving style. But then you should constantly be working on your driving style to get better, to be smoother and more accurate and that type of thing. All right, we are now, wow, almost, we're working on a 10-second lead on these guys. I did not expect to be this much faster. I knew from the practice session, I only ran, actually here in the career mode practice, I only ran, I think, maybe 1.5 to 2 laps is all I ran. Just enough basically to see if the setup I had worked on outside of career mode was going to work out. I figured it would, but I wanted to give it a couple laps just to make sure. And sure enough, the truck is feeling great. There's more speed in it. Just like I have mentioned at other short tracks, there's more speed to be found here. I could push this thing harder than what I'm pushing it right now, but I have a great feel in the truck. The truck rotates well. When I get back to the throttle, the car is very stable. You know, those are the types of things I look at. So yeah, I could go for more raw speed, which I obviously don't need for career mode. But in this case, I was going for pure feel, and the lap times will generally take care of themselves. All right, we're already catching the back of the pack. I'm going to have to take a check. I have no idea how many laps we've run versus how many laps there are to go. There we go, 10 to go. All right, we're going to see how these AI run. Ooh, he slowed down quite a bit in the middle of the corner. Not expecting that. That is a lot more than I was expecting him to slow down. And obviously these guys are at the back of the field for a reason. But that was a bit more extreme. Like you can see, I am gaining on these guys quickly. All right, I'm going to be very careful here. All right, Cobb, is she going to give me any room? No, not really. Wow. All right, we're up by 13 seconds. Now we're just having some fun here. Holy cow, and Jennifer Cobb does not want to go down a lap. How can I work my way through this mess? Because this is a hornet's nest for sure. And there she goes again. All right. Heavy braking, and then she runs into the back of me on corner entry. So this is interesting. Interesting for sure. Maybe she decided that she wanted to become a rival before the season was over. She didn't want to miss out on her opportunity. All right, so we've gotten past that group of cars. We lost, looks like a little bit over a second of our lead there. But of course, these other guys are going to have to come through that same traffic, so good luck to them. Snyder here in the 51. The other thing to take note of is if you look at the standings in the running order, had to use the brakes there to stay off of Sheamus. As you notice, the numbers that are in green, those are the Chase competitors. That's why their numbers are in green as opposed to Matt Crafton, who is, we talked about earlier in the video, he is not a part of the chase, yet he is running fourth, which is up front, which is where you would expect Matt Crafton to be. All right, our lead back up over 13 seconds. And if those guys do catch the lap traffic, I'm sure our lead will balloon even more. We're going to stay sort of high here. Give Forrester all the room he wants coming off the corner. 4 laps remaining.
Clear high, quick.
We've got 2 guys in front of us. Looks like they're fighting for position. I don't have any desire to be part of that fight. Okay. Playing a game of chicken with me on corner entry.
Stay high, stay high. Still a car out there.
Oh, come on, guys. A little bit faster.
Still a car out there.
You can see we can definitely drive it in a good bit
Clear down low.
farther than they can. That should get us clear by both of those guys. Next up is Travis Kwok, who is, man, you can see how much we gained on him on corner entry. Try to give him plenty of room. Exit.
Clear high, quick.
2 more laps. It looks like there's not really many lap trucks for us to encounter in that next couple of laps, which is good. There's only 1 up there. We may not even get to them. And that is Nemechek, the elder Nemechek, running 18th. Wow, so we're going to lap into the top 20. All right, I'm going to go to the high side and give him all the room he wants on the bottom. And in fact, I'm going to do the same thing on exit. Give him all the room he wants, and he gives us some room. Okay, that's good. You can see he gave us the high side on corner exit. I was not going to take it because it wasn't worth that chance, but I appreciate him giving it to us. All right, so we're going to bring it home. As we finish it up, we bring home the victory in round 1 in the first stage of the playoffs. So a very good race for us, not a competitive one at all from the AI perspective. We had a huge lead at the end of the race. I didn't see exactly how huge, but I know it was over 13 seconds. So a nice size lead for us. All right, you can see there, yeah, we were over 14 second, working on 15-second lead there by the end. So we lapped up into the top 20, and interesting, the AI did not have much speed at all in race pace. All right, so we'll bring home the first place winnings, 38,250. Of course, our normal team payout of $7,500, giving us a bank account total of $1.84 million. Not a bad sum of money. Of course, if you're not already familiar, it does nothing for you in the game. So all you're doing is accumulating money that you have no way to spend. And even if you did have something to spend it on, I mean, what would you do with it? I've got some ideas, but it doesn't look like it's going to come to fruition that we're going to be able to do anything with that money in the game. So now we come to the important screen. Where are we in the playoff standings? And the best thing you could possibly see as a driver, and that is we are in the first position with the green advanced next to our name. So that means that we're automatically on to round 2 at this point. Doesn't matter what happens in the next 2 races, including the ever-present Talladega. So whatever happens at Talladega, whatever nasty wreck we might be involved in, it simply won't matter. We're moving on at this point. But if we take a look below us, we can see that John Hunter Nemechek has a 10-point advantage, Chase Briscoe 8, and then Christopher Bell and Noah Gregson each have a 2-point cushion, and Grant Enfinger is right on the bubble. And he has a 6-point lead over Stuart Friesen, and then a 10-point advantage over Austin Cindric. So very tight, particularly 4th through 6th. You do not want to be 6th, especially after the first race, going into the second race. You want to have as much of a cushion as you can. And even John Hunter's only got a 10-point cushion, so things are very, very tight. Let's go ahead, pick up our trophy, and see our awesome friend over on the right-hand side of the screen who's using the 1820s model camera to take pictures in Victory Lane. We've got our confetti, that none of which seems to be falling on the truck or us. So it's a new type of confetti. They've just invented it. All right, fastest lap, 31.5. Not bad. Again, I could have pushed it harder, and I'm sure got more speed out of it, but it wasn't needed. Let's go ahead and head back to our main menu and see what's headed next for us. All right, so Awesome Wayne Self says whenever a driver hits 15 wins in NASCAR, we make a statue of them in their honor. So just kidding, but that would be cool, right? So great job, life goals. Yeah, not bad. It's 15 wins. I'm trying to think how we got those 15 wins. Some of those I know have been in the Xfinity series, but we're going to take it. 15 wins already. We are on to the second race in our championship bid, which is going to be at Las Vegas. Now, of course, for us, we already know that we're on to round 2. So Las Vegas and then the race after that, Talladega, are of no consequence to us in our championship bid. We know where we're headed into the second round. But what we're really after now is let's go ahead and try to accumulate as many playoff points as we can. And because we're running shorter races, there's not going to be any stage points for us. We're only going to get playoff points from here on out using victories. So for us, we're going to keep the same mindset. We're going to head to each and every race with the mindset of we want to win, and we're going to try to keep that flashing M up at the top of the screen next to season 1, which stands for momentum. So thank you very much for joining me for this New Hampshire race, race 1 of round 1 of the playoffs, and stay tuned for more NASCAR Heat 2.